Welcome to Crowning Connections with Monarch Roofing and Rob Clemons. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about pizza. And I'm really excited about this because, and I say I'm excited about every single show, but today I'm like almost nervous excited because we have the one and only Ed Piotrowski here with us. Ed, thank you for coming on.
Thanks, man. Too much build up.
Right.
Just a local village idiot telling the weather.
So come on now. Dude. I was actually like literally thinking, how am I going to talk about this today with Ed? You know, we got to do you honor here. You know?
Well, listen, you do a great job speaking. I've had the opportunity to speak with you quite a few times, and you're phenomenal at it. I hope Martin's listening.
Well, no, I appreciate that. Thank you for the, a couple of years ago, we did a presentation together, and I remember you led off, and then I followed up, and later on I was like, that was the worst idea ever. It's like, like everybody's here to hear Rob Clemons speak. So,
they may be.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you for warming up for me.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it was great. So this year when we did it, we flipped it around. I thought it was a little bit better plan. So there's that.
It was great.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Hey, I was going to ask you, so we got this pizza party coming up, right? It's coming up on Saturday, and really excited about it. So for those who are, haven't heard the whole build-up for it, tell us how this whole thing came up.
Well, back in June, that's when the hurricane season began. I thought to myself, gosh, I'm so sick and tired of hurricanes, and who isn't sick of them after the last 5 years? So I just threw out there kind of tongue-in-cheek that, if we get through this hurricane season and we don't get hit by a hurricane, I'm going to throw a massive pizza party and everybody's invited. Well, during the course of the season, every time I posted something about a tropical system forming, people say, is the pizza party still on? I'm like, this is actually going to be a pretty big deal, I think. So we just went along with it. We were able to get some fantastic sponsors like you guys to help, really do this great community event where it's just going to be a massive pizza party on December 11th, coming up Saturday out at Pelicans Ballpark. And just to celebrate the fact that we made it through the season without getting hit by a hurricane.
I mean, it's pretty funny because, here's a guy who's in the roofing business and a guy that's in the weather business. And we're sitting here going, yay, we had no storms this year.
Right.
Perfect.
Which is odd, right?
It is kind of odd. But hey, you got to throw a curveball once in a while. Well, I think that's really cool that it started off as just kind of a tongue-in-cheek comment that people remembered. And that must happen to you in this business sometimes. Ed, you remember when you said?
You got to be real careful about what you say because people do remember that stuff. And it kind of took off, too. It was kind of funny because every time I finished a tropical update, only thing people were looking for were the pizza emojis because that ultimately is what mattered to them. Is the pizza party still on? So, and we've got at least 15. Are going to finalize that number very soon. 15 to 20 different pizza places that'll be out there. So we're kind of calling it a Pizza Palooza. Where
holy cow!
Everybody will get 2 tickets. In other words, you'll get 2 free slices of big old pizza. There'll be water, other things available. Fun time for the kids. Santa Claus will be out there. We'll have live music from the 100 Grand Band. And we're doing a pizza eating contest. So
okay.
That'll be fun.
So whoever eats the most pizza wins, sort of like that kind of thing?
Yeah, what they'll do is they'll register when they come in, and we'll draw 15 names out of the hat. And those 15 people will have the opportunity to eat a medium pizza. We'll see who eats it the fastest.
Oh, okay. You know what's interesting about those contests? It's usually not the guy you expect to win that wins it. You're always expecting the big guy, but it's always some guy that's 130 pounds.
Right. If I'm in a pizza eating contest with you because you're half my size, you'll probably whip me. So there you go.
I can put away some pizza. Now let's go ahead and go down that route. Are you a big pizza fan, or was this?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. What's your favorite?
I love anchovies, believe it or not.
No
Pepperoni
way.
and anchovies are my favorite pizza. I don't eat it that much because at the age of 55, you can just look at pizza and put on weight. So you got to be careful.
I was going to say, if the pizza eating contest between you and I involves anchovies, I think you're going to probably win.
Okay, I'm going to win.
Yeah,
all right, that's cool.
That's
Good to know if we ever get in that situation.
right. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself. At what age or what time in life did you know you wanted to be a weatherman?
You know what? I remember in second grade drawing maps, watching the weather at night. And back in the day when I was growing up, you only had 3 channels to watch. And the evening news came on at 6 o'clock. And I'd watch the weatherman, and I had pieces of paper, and I'd draw the fronts. And I'd take it to school the next day, and I'd present the weather. And, of course, if it was wrong, I'd blame the guys on television, not me. I never thought I'd do it in television. I actually thought when I went to high school that I was going to go to the Air Force Academy. I had an appointment to do that. And I decided against that because I really didn't want to move out west with my mom and dad moving out to the east. So I ended up going to North Carolina State University. And I just remember staying up late when I was in grade school and waiting for it to snow in South Texas, which never happened.
South Texas, right.
But it was a lot of fun. I mean, and then I happened to get an internship at a local TV station in North Carolina, and just fell in love with that, telling people about the weather, and got my first job in January of 1990, and the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, how much of being a successful weather person involves knowledge of the weather versus charisma?
I think it's a combination of both. And I had a general manager once tell me when we were in the process of hiring somebody, I said, gosh, this person's a great meteorologist. And he would say, can they communicate on the air? Yeah. He goes, ultimately, that's what matters. You can have the smartest guy in the world, but if they're not communicating it well, it doesn't matter. So I think it's a really good mix. You've got to be charismatic. Because I think the forecasts that everybody puts out are similar. So it has a lot to do with the delivery. And being involved in the community as well that you live in, I think is a huge deal.
That's amazing. I'd like to circle back around to that, as a matter of fact, community involvement. But one thing that piqued my interest that you were just saying is I mean, isn't that kind of true of all professions? It's the one who communicates the best that makes the most a difference. You can have all this stuff up here, but if you can't really get it out to the people,
right,
it's hard to be successful. That's really interesting stuff. From your early career, have there been anybody that was just an inspiration to yourself that helped you get to this point?
Yeah, there are actually several guys that are still to this day my best friends in this business. And one is Eric Thomas, who's a meteorologist in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was only 1 year here in Myrtle Beach, and he kind of took me under his wing to teach me how to be a chief meteorologist in terms of what I do on air and behind the scenes. Greg Fischel, who now lives in Myrtle Beach, retired ironically, at WRAL in Raleigh, is another mentor of mine. And then I've got a couple of guys, Tim Heller in Houston, and I can't remember the other guy's name, and he's one of my best friends. Yikes. Not Rob Fowler, but he's in Charleston. Rob Perillo in Louisiana. All guys that have had to deal with hurricanes, and we've always talked about bumping things off of one another to improve our performance on air so that people understand the impacts of a hurricane. So those that core four is probably have had a major influence on my life and career, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing stuff. I feel like everybody has to have sort of a mentor that they look up to. I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself then. I'm going to go back to, so when I was a little kid, I thought I wanted to be a meteorologist.
Really?
I really did. You
got the charisma for it. I'll tell you that, Rob. You're great.
I may not know anything about the weather, but
that's okay.
And so I made a report, and I want to test this with you because I was talking to my staff about this. I made a actual, you'll have a presentation you have to do, and I made mine on could you predict the weather in the morning by what the clouds look like. Okay. And so I thought I had an airtight, like presentation, and the teacher got done at the end, and she goes, No, you can't predict.
There's some truth to that. It depends on what's coming in. This time of the year when you see a lot of thin cirrus clouds in the morning, that could lead to a storm on its way in a couple of days. So, I wouldn't say you were wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe not 100% right, but,
right. Yeah, because my thesis was you could definitely do it. I learned at an early age. Yeah, Rob, don't swing too hard for the fences.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Oh, tell me about the weatherman business. You're everywhere. I mean, you really are. And I'm always amazed at how, and not just from my perspective. I've heard from people in the community who just talk about how generous you are with your time and how generous you are and to the people. How many hours a week do you put in?
It's odd. My days are very fragmented. Yeah. For example, this morning I was out visiting a young lady. She's 90 years old today. So we did a drive-by birthday, and that was fun. And then, of course, I'm here, which I love hanging out with you guys and doing stuff like this. My actual job starts around 2:30 a lot of times, and that's probably the easiest part of my job because I'm sitting at my computer forecasting the weather and creating graphics. So I run from 2:30 to 11:30 there. And, some days when it's perfectly sunny, you may work 4 or 5 hours. There may be days when there are hurricanes when you're working days on end. So days are very fragmented. And the beauty of my company is they give me leeway to kind of set my own schedule. As long as I'm there for the television shows from 5 to 7:30 and then 11 to 11:30, they let me come and go as I please. So that's kind of cool.
I would think the people at WPDE are probably, feel pretty good about what you do.
Yeah, they're not complaining. They're still my check's not bouncing, and they're giving me new contracts every 5 years, so I'm happy with that.
Right, no, that makes sense. I was going to ask you, have you ever had to sleep overnight at the station due to just some crazy weather event?
Oh yeah, and for several years we had nowhere to sleep. So we finally convinced the GM at least give us a nice recliner in our office so that we can sleep for a couple of hours. And first time we ever had to really spend the night, so to speak, was with Hurricane Floyd back in 1999. And we were there for 3 consecutive days. And I used to joke around, and this is before we had a shower at the station. Good thing it's not smell-o-vision. It was kind of odd. We did get to go home for an hour or two here and there. And then, Hurricane Florence, Hurricane Matthew, we had to spend the night. It's just easier, actually. You get off the air at 11:30, you have to be back on the air by 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's just easier to stay there than go home. And again, now we have showers at the station, so that helps tremendously.
Well, that's good. They call those the Ed Piotrowski Memorial Showers based on the...
Thank God they're there, though. It helps to wake you up. But the adrenaline of a storm just gets you going. But I'll tell you what, when the storm is over with and it transitions from a weather story to a news story, that's when you crash. And you feel like you could sleep for 3 days. And at my age anymore, it takes a little bit more time to recover.
A little bit more coffee in the morning or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I got you. I grew up, and we're both sports fans. I was a big Washington, I still am a big Washington football team fan. And I again, talking with my staff earlier, it sounds like I talk with my staff a lot about
that's good.
But
hey, those relationships are important.
It is. I mean, this is about team building, So, but I was a big Joe Gibbs fan.
Oh, yeah.
Up. And I remember hearing him talk about how he would sleep in the office overnight just because it was so demanding. And I've always kind of modeled my style of management after his. But when I hear that kind of stuff, I always think there's the little side of things you don't think about, like a warm shower, right?
Right. Things you don't think about. You're right. But it's like you said, you want to be the best team member. If you're leading that team, you want to do everything that they're doing. I mean, I lead by example. I'm sure that's what you do too. I can tell that just from the times I've interacted with you. And I think that's important for the people that are, in my shop. Like, hey, if Ed's going to do it, then I can easily do it as well. So
yeah, definitely good points. So for yourself, you've been in a lot of situations where you've met people. I'm sure you've met a lot of very colorful people, celebrities and whatnot. Can you give us an idea of some of maybe the big names we might have? I know you met a few, but
so recently, excuse me, my throat is bothering me a little bit. Anyway, you guys, has anybody here watched The Office?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So Brian Bumgardner was in town, and I got to meet him at the Chili Festival. That was cool. Just in the last week, I was at a viewing of the Christmas Vacation movie and met Chevy Chase.
No way.
Which was really pretty cool.
Wow.
And then when the Planet Hollywood opened here in Myrtle Beach, there was a lot of celebrities here. I got to meet Patrick Swayze, Jennifer Love Hewitt. Tiger Woods was here the next day, which was cool. But the coolest of all was Will Smith.
Oh, no way.
So Will Smith came in, and the sports director and I at the time were just talking to Will Smith. He's like, hey, fellas, let's go over to the All-Star Cafe. I'm buying. I'm like, okay.
Are you kidding
so
me?
we had a nice little hour with Will Smith. It was before he got really big, but still.
I mean, still though.
It's Will Smith.
And I'm thinking around that time, he's probably made Independence Day at that point.
Yeah,
already.
I think so. Back in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah, he was making it pretty good. The thing about Will Smith, and this is an interesting one. So when I'm meeting groups, I talk about these DISC assessments. I don't know if you've ever heard of these personality profiles. And I use Will Smith as the influencer type of personality. Right. And just somebody who's very friendly, outgoing, but I always have thought to myself, I don't know Will Smith. I mean, I'm going off of what he looks like in the movies.
Right.
It sounds like he's behind the scenes.
Great
that
guy. Yeah, for a guy who is as popular as he is, he wasn't big timing us at all. Wow. Now Bruce Willis big timed us. He was there. He was just like doing his thing. We don't know what was going on with Bruce. I don't even know if he was on this planet at that time.
Oh my gosh.
It was cool.
Yeah, well, Bruce. I mean, by that point, yeah, he's way past the moonlighting days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. As far as I've followed you on social media a little bit, and I have seen some of your telescope work. I mean, and you're doing some pretty awesome shots. How long have you been doing this for?
Gosh, about 10 years ago, I started the ABC 15 weather calendar simply because we had so many awesome photographers in our area sending me pictures all the time. And I go, gosh, this would be great to give them some publicity, but also, raise money for charity. So a guy named Phil Lanou at the time, which is still his name, by the way. He hasn't changed.
He changed his name. He's now,
He took me under his wing and taught me photography. And so I learned how to do photography that way. And then Steve Elwood, who lives here in town, does an amazing job with astrophotography. And he helped my wife find me a telescope for Christmas a couple of years ago and taught me how to use the telescope and how to attach my camera to it to take photos. So that's the whole deal is, attaching the camera and taking photos and then, cropping them a little bit here and there. And it's just been an awesome time doing that. It's fun to spend a whole night outdoors looking for the Milky Way and things like that. It's really cool.
I could totally do the same thing. But it's funny because I know what you're talking about. There's a long way from learning how to use one of those little telescopes to the kind you're using. Because my mom bought my dad one a few years ago, and he still never figured out how to use it.
Oh, well, yeah. And that's where I'm lucky with Steve, because I'm not the brightest light on the Christmas tree when it comes to stuff like that. But he is phenomenal and got me to, track the stars so that you can do long exposures. So you can see stuff that we can't see with the naked eye. If you expose something for 2 or 3 minutes, you'd be shocked at what you can actually see in the heavens. So, but you got to have the right equipment to do that.
Man, it's crazy. I sometimes think back to these guys who were first finding the planets and how impressive that was with whatever equipment they had. So, yeah, that's really cool. You've done a lot of great things in your career. What are you most proud of?
You know what? I think I'm most proud of people coming up to me and appreciating my hurricane coverage and not being a sensationalistic person. I've always considered myself a voice of reason, and I think most importantly is just being the same person on air as I am off air. And I hopefully you guys would think that of me. I'm no different there, but just getting through hurricanes, and I love the community involvement that I do, that I can use my position for good in helping others that may not be as fortunate. And that goes along with a lot of the charities that I'm involved in, and bobbleheads and calendars that we've done specifically for charities in our area.
I was going to ask you about that a little bit. Talking about your charities, and Monarch, we're a big supporter of the community as well. When with each bobblehead, how does that work? I mean, how does that money go back?
So a couple of years ago, the Myrtle Beach Pelicans wanted to do a bobblehead, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So we did that and raised money for charity there. And then we decided we wanted to do another one because they seemed to be pretty popular. So we did a second one with the green suit. And then this year, again, because they were selling out, we were like, gosh, we're raising money for charity. Let's just keep doing them. That's cool. So we did one with the pink suit for Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October. And we just closed that down. We sold over 900 of those.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Of the 1,000. So, and that all goes to Thailand's Health in their breast care facility. So, money that's going to be used to really perhaps help save the lives of people. And we're doing calendars now. And those calendars, in 2 days, we've sold 500 of the 1,000. So that's really cool. And that money's going to help Wreaths Across America put wreaths on graves at the National Cemetery in Florence, and also Project Lifesaver with SOS Care that helps seniors who may wander get found because they have a little Lifesaver bracelet on. So all things that I think will really make a difference.
Man, that's.
And listen, I appreciate what you guys do as well. You've always been a big supporter of sponsoring a lot of the stuff that we do, and on television as well, which certainly shows that you're very much involved in the community.
Absolutely. No, I was just thinking to myself when you were talking about this, I need to buy some bobbleheads.
Listen, I'll give you, man. Let me be on this show. I'll give you them to you.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. I wanted to segue over to something, and this is something that was on my heart that I need to ask you as a professional. Is it true that in some of these storm scenes that some of these weathermen are kind of faking a little bit? Like, I'm getting blown away here, and there's like people walking by in the background.
Right. You know what? I've seen that before. Other stations, not necessarily in town. I don't want to call out people in town.
Of course not in town.
There's been a couple that have come from out of town, and you'll see. And I actually saw this on our television once. They were standing on the beach between two palm trees, acting like the wind was blowing massively. You see a guy walk behind him, walking his dog, like it's 20-mile-per-hour wind, and so stuff like that does happen because they're just trying to find something. I think the Weather Channel folks do a phenomenal job. But they broad brush it. It's more about just in general what's happening, and they'll tell you to turn into your local folks for that. And we have good relationships with them. And the great thing is, and Jim Cantore is coming to our pizza party, so that's going to be a lot of fun.
We're really excited about that, and that's really cool. I know he had mentioned you a little bit beforehand, and I know he's excited to be spending some time with you as well. So that's a very cool thing.
Yeah, I invited Jim to our, we used to do an ABC 15 golf tournament with sports director Rich Krampanis probably 15 years ago. And we invited him, and this is before Jim got really big. And he came every year to play in our golf tournament. So we've been friends for, 20 years. And, I don't get to see him as much as I used to because he's such a big deal now. But
Right.
the cool thing about Jim is he hasn't forgotten the little people, so to speak. He's just a great guy.
Now, if you and he are playing golf, I mean, who's going to win?
Oh, he will.
Oh,
He's
okay.
a much better golfer than I am.
Really?
We have fun, though. That's what matters.
Okay, so now we got to play a game here. What can you beat Jim Cantore in, just in case?
Basketball.
Oh, okay.
I'm a little bit taller than Jim, so
Okay,
I
right.
can throw my weight
You
around.
back him into the basket, right?
it.
I got you. All right, that's fair. So as far as 2022, it's coming up. Give the people a little preview of what we should expect in 2022 with the weather.
Oh my gosh, probably more of the same.
Yeah.
Hopefully the hurricane season won't be as active. This past hurricane season was amazing for us. It's the first time we hadn't been hit by or impacted by a hurricane since 2013. Wow. So it was a great hurricane season. La Nina has been really, the last 2 years, made it very active. The two busiest hurricane seasons, well, top three the last 2 years. And we probably won't be as busy this upcoming season, but there again, it only takes one hitting you to make it a bad season. So I'm not a big seasonal forecaster because, we're trying to get it right for the next day.
Right. Right.
But with hurricanes, you can kind of give a good idea. So, we're just all hoping for some snow this year. You and I were talking about that. So we'll see what happens. December, probably not. It may be pretty mild for much of December.
Okay, got you. So no snow. So cancel my ski trips in Myrtle Beach.
That's it. That's a good point. That's a good
right. Fair enough. As far as the biggest storm that you were ever involved with, I mean, do you remember one that was in particular just destructive?
What really scared me was Hurricane Floyd back in 1999. It was a Category 5 near the Bahamas, and it was forecast to make landfall 2 or 3 days out near Myrtle's Inlet. And I knew if that were the case, that would be worse than Hurricane Hugo for us. Thankfully, back in 99, our forecasting skills weren't as good as they are now. It weakened considerably. It was a Cat 2, and it actually made landfall near Wilmington. But that was the scariest. Probably the most impactful was Hurricane Florence because of the incredible amount of rain and flooding that occurred.
Right.
People fear that wind all the time, which is a legit fear, but it's really the flooding rainfall that kills more people in a hurricane than anything else. And that was just devastating for our area, as was Hurricane Matthew. So those are the two that I'll forever remember. And hopefully we'll never get anything worse than that.
I mean, I remember you did a presentation and you mentioned that, and that stuck with me. I've actually used that when I'm talking to people who are from, areas that don't get hurricanes, and they've come down and, talk about wind. And sure, it does damage to your roof,
Absolutely.
which is great, but it sounds terrible.
As long as it doesn't kill people, you're good.
I don't want it to hurt anybody. I just want a couple of shingles to blow off.
Right.
But no, when you said that, I usually tell that to people. It's like you just have to be ready for the water and be very aware of your safety preparation for that.
Absolutely. I mean, wind does a tremendous amount of damage, like you said, but it really is the water that kills people, and tornadoes and storm surge as well. So those are the core four things that we have to worry about when it comes to hurricanes.
Absolutely. One of my other favorites from your presentation that I've seen you do is that you show the picture where it could be like Kings Highway, or it could be 501, wherever it is. There's this one shark that ends up.
Yes. Social media, man. Oh my gosh. If it's on the internet, it must be true.
It's got to be true. That's
there's a shark swimming on a highway supposedly because the highway had been flooded. And it showed up during Hurricane Sandy, Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Florence. I mean, that shark's a well-traveled shark.
Same
He's
shark.
a superstar.
He doesn't age. He's
No.
like always the exact same spot.
But people believe it. That's what's odd. I mean,
Yeah.
people need to do a better job of vetting the sources where they're getting information.
That's true.
That's key, especially with what we do. Half of my job anymore seems to be putting out fires from, high school kids or whatever that are putting out forecasts that sound legit,
Right.
crazy.
Forget all these models and all the
Right.
sophisticated stuff. We'll just, whatever happens. As we get towards the back end of this, I was hoping you could kind of tell me what you would suggest to, we still have a lot of people coming to Myrtle Beach, one of the most popular places to move to in the country. What would you tell somebody, either weather-wise or just, locality-wise, a recommendation to a new person moving here?
The most important thing, especially when it comes to hurricanes, is make sure you have a plan. What are you going to do if a hurricane's threatening our area? What supplies are you going to have? Make sure that you have all of your important documentation stored in a safe place. And make sure you have the right insurance. I mean, a lot of people come here and your normal home insurance may not cover everything that occurs with a hurricane. Flooding coming from a lake is a lot different than a window breaking and flooding coming from a water in terms of what's covered or not. And, that goes for obviously any kind of damage that occurs to your house, from roofs to shingle or, roofs to windows or siding or whatever it may be. So make sure you're fully prepared. Do it in the beginning of the hurricane season so you're not going to end up like the other 99% of people waiting to the last minute to do something.
That's a great point. And I also want to talk about, and this may be one of the more near and dear to your heart. So NC State,
Yes.
I remember this was incredible. So earlier this year, you were talking when they were about to play Clemson.
Yes.
And I was just like, they got no shot at being Clemson.
Right.
But there they went. They
did.
Spanked them a little bit. Huh?
And it takes for us to beat Clemson, they have to be down, and we have to be playing extremely well.
Extremely well.
And that's what happened. And so it almost killed me, though, because I'm sitting at the dinner table watching the game. My mother-in-law and mother and everybody's at the table. And, of course, our kicker misses a field goal, and I just slammed down the table. I was so mad, and it scared the heck out of everybody. But the bigger game this year was when they played Carolina. And we ended up North Carolina, because when I say Carolina, a lot of people think South Carolina.
Correct.
Anyway, they in 26 seconds, he scored 2 touchdowns and recovered an onside kick to win the game. So that's the greatest game I've ever seen.
Unbelievable, right? Now, are you a CCU fan too now?
Oh, absolutely.
With all the success, right?
I've always wondered, who am I going to root for if NC State ever played CCU?
Man.
My heart. I mean, it's like, gosh.
Yeah,
it would be. You couldn't lose, I guess, is a good way to put it.
That's true. There's and that's like the glass half full, glass half empty thing. There's gonna be 2 winners. No matter who wins, it's a winner. So, all right, very cool. Well, Ed, we have the pizza party coming up. We're very excited to be sponsoring that. Very excited to see you out there. I really appreciate you coming on today. Very interesting stuff.
That was good stuff, Rob. Thank you for everything you do, and keep on going and. Keep doing what you're doing in terms of speaking. You do a phenomenal job out in the community as well. So does Monarch Roofing. Appreciate you guys.
Well, I appreciate that as well. This is Rob Clemons. I'm signing off with Crowning Connections at Monarch Roofing. We'll see you next time.